Hi, and welcome to another Witchdoctors how-to video. Today we're going to show you our new rear master cylinder assembly for cross countries and cross-road motorcycles. A lot of you have been asking us to build this for a long time, and we finally got it done. What it consists of is a master cylinder and a bracket. It's very, very easy to install. The master cylinder has a sight window so you can check the fluid. The cap unscrews. It's got a rubber seal, rubber gasket in there, and you just pour the fluid in. So what this does, it replaces that ugly plastic one that's found on all the motorcycles. The fitting here uses the stock hose that comes with your stock master cylinder. So basically, all you have to do is unbolt the bracket, unbolt the stock bracket, and then bolt ours on, hook the hose on, fill it with fluid, and bleed the brakes. So they only come into one color right now, the black with the contrast cut lines. So this is a very easy installation and makes a huge difference on how the bike looks. So let's show you how to change this. Okay, so this is what we're going to change. We're going to change out this reservoir here and the bracket behind here. So let me show you what the bolts are. If you look down in the back here, there's two bolts, one here and one here. Those are the two bolts that we're going to need to take out to take the bracket off. So before you get started, you're going to need a 13mm open end wrench or box end wrench, a pair of pliers, and a couple rags. What I do is I take some rags and kind of tuck them underneath the hose here, because that hose, when you take it off, you're going to get some fluid coming out of there. So you want to try to protect that a little bit. You don't want the fluid running down all over everything. So just go in the back here and take these bolts loose. The bolts are also what hold the little master cylinder itself on, so nothing will fall out. You don't have to worry about it. They're real easy to get to. They're super long, so it feels like you turn forever to get them out, but take the bolts out. You're going to reuse those bolts, so don't lose them. You could use a socket and ratchet on here, I guess. It's a little tighter, but you can get it in there. It would go a lot faster than what I'm doing here, because I just can't. Again, these bolts are so long. Can't quite get my hand in there to get it. There we go, it's coming. Okay, so that gets this whole thing here loose. The whole bracket is loose. So what you want to do now is right here on this hose, there's a little clamp. You can spin it. It'll spin so you can get it where you want it, or you can kind of twist this around. Get your pliers, just squeeze it and pull it back. That'll take your hose loose. So now you're ready to take the master cylinder off. You just pull it off. Simple as that. Comes right off. So what you're going to do is you're going to take ours, the Witchdoctor one, slide that hose on there, take your clamp, slide the clamp back on, and you can get your rags out of there. Wipe off any fluid if you have some. You don't want brake fluid sitting on your paint or anything, because it's pretty corrosive. So you don't want it to be leaking. And then all you do is you just reuse put the bolts back in. They go in the master cylinder, so you got to kind of look back in there and get them lined up. kind of hard to see. Kind of do it more by feel than you do by looking. And our bracket here is powder coated. We powder coated it black, like a texture finish to kind of match the finish of the engine and the front spoiler. So it kind of blends in a little bit better than the stock one did. So now you just tighten these bolts up. And again, if you had a ratchet, this would go a lot faster because it's not hard, it's just the bolts are so long. So the hardest part about this is going to be bleeding the brakes, because you do have to bleed the rear brakes. The cylinder has air in it, or the reservoir I should say here, has air in it. So when you add new fluid, you're going to put that air into the system. So that's basically it. You can pivot this wherever you need it to kind of get that hose to go so you don't have a big kink in it. There's also a bolt underneath here. There's an Allen bolt under there that you can loosen and swivel this wherever you want it. So we give it to you pretty close to where it should be, but if you need to swivel it for whatever reason, you can still see the sight glass when you have fluid in it. You can also just take the lid off and look and see if you have fluid in it, because if some of you can't see through that, just take the lid off and take a look. But that's basically it right there. It's hooked in and it looks a whole heck of a lot better than the stock one. So the next step we'll show you is how to bleed the brakes. Okay, let's show you how to bleed the brakes. A lot of people think, oh my God, I've got to bleed the brakes. It's the hardest thing, some black magic. It's not at all. It's actually very easy, but you have to follow a few steps. The first thing you want to do, take a rag, wrap it around here. So if you spill some fluid, again, you don't get it on the paint or anything. One thing I had said earlier and kind of made a mistake, I said this was the master cylinder. This is actually the master cylinder reservoir. This is the master cylinder. So what you want to do is you want to unscrew that lid, take out that rubber cap. Now, when you're adding brake fluid, you can't just grab stuff off the shelf in the garage. If you use brake fluid for a car, most of those are .3 brake fluids. The Victories take .4. So make sure you get something that says .4 on it. It makes a difference on how the brakes, the boiling point actually. You don't want to mix fluids. That's definite no-no. Don't mix the fluids. So just take some fluid, pour it in there. You can't really overfill it because we're going to bleed it out. So you just want to put some in there. Put the gasket and the cap back on. One thing, once you get this where you want it, like I said before, there's a bolt underneath here. There's a bolt right here. Make sure you tighten up that bolt before before you're all done, so this thing doesn't swivel around. Just tighten that bolt up. So that's basically that step. Let's go around to the other side and I'll show you what we have to do with the wheel. Okay, so to make this a little easier, the muffler's off the bike and I took the saddlebag off just so you can see it. You do not have to do that stuff. I just did it so in the video you can see it. So your bleeder screw is right here. Has a little rubber nipple cap thing on it. Just pop that little dust cap off. Swivel it out of the way. The bleeder screw is a 5/16 or an 8mm. So you need that wrench, whichever. Now in all my videos I try to show you how you do this stuff by yourself. Bleeding brakes is definitely easier with two people, but you can do it by yourself. We give you this rubber hose. What you want to do, you want to put that rubber hose right on the end of that bleeder. Put it on there nice and tight because you don't want any air to escape. If you have it crooked, you can be sucking air into the brake system just as much as you're trying to get out. And also have just a little cup, mayonnaise jar, anything that'll hold just a little bit of fluid. Pour some fluid in there. Stick that hose down in the fluid. I got a block here to kind of prop it up. Now what you want to do, and this is an important step, make sure that hose is down in the fluid. You don't want the hose out of the fluid. If the hose is out of the fluid, you're going to suck air and you're just going to be going backwards. So that's, take the extra time, prop it up, add enough fluid, do whatever you got to do, but don't let that hose come out of that fluid. When you get all that done, loosen up the bleeder screw. You don't take it out, just a couple turns loose is all you need. So once you do that, you're going to go around to the other side and you're going to pump the brakes. Now that's where two people really come in, make it a little bit easier. When you're pumping the brakes, you're going to see air coming out. Air bubbles are going to come into that fluid. When you don't see air bubbles anymore, that means there's no air in the system. So it's kind of hard with two people to keep running around back and forth, but that's kind of... Okay, so nothing hard, but what you want to do is you just want to pump this down, and you'll feel it. It'll go down real easy. You just want to keep pumping kind of slow. Every time you push down, you're forcing fluid back to the brake and out that little hose. When the pedal comes up, that's when you're sucking. So you're getting fluid pumping through, and also since that hose is down in the brake fluid, you're getting it to suck back up in. So you're kind of doing it 2 times. You don't want to do this really fast. Just go nice and slow, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the resistance start a little bit. You'll feel it start to get a little smoother. Now, at the same time, if you had somebody else watching the other side, you'd be able to see when there's no more bubbles coming out. So you just want to continually do this until you don't have any bubbles. There's no really set time. It may work good on the first 5 or 10 times. It may take you 50 times. It just really depends. But just go nice and slow and pump it through. When you think you have all the air bubbles out, make sure you keep your hose down in the fluid. And you can tighten up this bleeder screw. Don't over tighten it because you'll strip it out or snap it off. So once you do that, you go back over and you feel your pedal, and it should feel pretty hard. It shouldn't squish down. So that's basically how you bleed brakes. There's a million different ways to do it, but that's one of the easiest. Thanks for watching Witchdoctors How To.